So we put together this presentation as just from making tons and tons of websites and researching private school websites like crazy. We really boiled it down to just 5 things that you have to do really well to have a website that causes inquiries. So that's our key here. These are the 5 website must-haves. If the audience of your website, the primary audience, who it's for, is the prospective family who's looking in and trying to understand what this is all about. This is Vince and myself. Vince, if you can introduce yourself if you like.
Yes, hi. My name is Vincent Inkowski. I go by Vince, and I like to call myself the website guru without too much pride.
And my name is Steve, and I guess I'll be your host here. Also just a big private school advocate. Okay, so what factors lead to enrollment growth? So obviously there are lots of things, but what things are in our control, right? Some things are the economy and things going on in the government, but in our control, this is how it works. This would be your marketing plan, if you will. We are going to start, a great website starts by people visiting the website, right? Would you agree? If no one's visiting it, it's not going to help much. But basically, someone has to go to your website. After they go to the website, they're going to book a tour, and then they're going to enroll. And after they enroll, they're going to be part of the community and then tell other people about it. And those other people are going to visit the website, book a tour, enroll, and so on, right? So that is the entire marketing plan in a nutshell. But we're going to break this down a little bit more. So to drive traffic, how do you do it? A lot of people are going to talk about SEO, right? So let's talk about SEO for a second. So SEO means search engine optimization. It's like a whole field of study, and we're not going to be an entire study of it right now. We're just going to show you the really easy things that you need to do. So these are things that you can do. So there's 2 kinds of SEO, on page and off page. So Vince, you want to explain just kind of difference between on page and off page, what that means?
Absolutely. So, off-page SEO, first of all, is factors that are not directly on your website that lead people to click on a link to get to your website. So, for example, a common one would be if someone's searching on Google for a school in their area and your school shows up in, let's say, on Google Maps, then one of the links on a Google Maps profile would be a website, and then they'll get to your website. But that's things that you control offsite. So it has
offsite
nothing
generally
to
means off your website, not on your
correct,
website.
correct. Whereas on-site means you're directly controlling it on your actual website.
Okay, so here is a case that we're probably all familiar with. Someone, you want to find a school. You just moved to, for example, Los Angeles, and you want to know what are the private school options in Los Angeles. So you open the internet and you type in private school near me or Catholic school near me. And you are going to see Google search, or you're going to see Google Maps, right? So this is
And by internet, we
SEO.
assume Google.
Yeah,
because Google
Google
owns the whole internet pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, but either way, it does, even if it was on Bing Maps or Safari
Right.
Maps, it doesn't matter. It's the same. You're going to be on a list, and then we're going to click on it. And obviously, the ones that are at the top of the list and have more stars are probably the ones that you're going to click on. And if you don't have a lot of stars, or you're not on the map at all, you're not going to get clicked on, right? So
That's right.
if you are going to get people to visit your website, you either have to have parents that remember your website address and tell other parents who just type it in directly, or they're going to search for it on the internet, or you're going to run ads. And so ads would be the most expensive way. That the map is going to be the simplest thing to do. Do you see the arrow on the screen pointing to the word Catholic school? Okay, here's a couple mistakes that I see all the time. People put the word church right there. And so if you're looking for a school, Google thinks you're a church, and therefore it won't show your profile. Or it might, but it might be like way down on the list, right? Another thing I'll see is someone will have like a preschool, and then eventually the preschool adds an elementary, and then a junior high, and then a high school. But they never changed it. So the listing still says preschool from like 10 years ago. And so if someone types in, even though they offer K through 12, someone types in high school, you're telling Google, this is not a high school. This is a preschool. And so Google's like, I don't think I should show this page. So if the quickest way to get to the top is just look at what is that right there. That's called your primary category. You have primary and they have secondary categories. So primary is obviously the one you want to choose. Catholic school, or Google's term is private educational institution. That is the the term for private school in
The most
Google's
generic of
land.
all terms.
Yeah. So that's how it work. Okay, here's the other thing I see. This is an issue too. People are not even on the map at all. So if you are not on the map, get on the map. Go to business.google.com and list yourself. Once you list yourself in a lot of categories. So this is what it looks like if you're editing your listing. The very top one says primary category. So you could put private school or private educational institution. And then in the second categories, just list as many as you can. There's some debate about that. Some people are saying you shouldn't be in like a million categories. Other ones said you're fine. But in this case, these are all very, very tightly close-knit categories. From my research, it's okay to be in multiple categories if you are a private school, because these are all very, very similar. It's not like a plumber that is saying the examples that Google says is if you're a hotel, don't list yourself as a pool just because there is a pool in the backyard of the hotel. And don't call yourself a restaurant, even though there's a restaurant in the lobby. But this is really tightly connected. So I don't think that's an issue. Okay, so here is I think a pretty cool looking profile. And it's cool because they fill it all out. So they got a nice photo. Oh, that's another thing. Some people have like the horrible photo that Google puts on there of like your parking lot. You can adjust that. Go ahead and put a cool photo up there. They wrote a little about us type of section, and they've got all the reviews. So you can simply put that in. That would be really cool. Vince, do you have anything to add to that?
For any schools out there that don't have control over their Google My Business profile, you see where that little link is that says suggest and edit on that example.
Let me see if I highlight
usually if the profile hasn't been claimed, then it will say next to suggest and edit, it'll say own this profile, and then you can click on that and sign into a Gmail account or Google account to claim the profile. So that's something important that you'll want to do, because there are quite a few schools out there that don't actually own the profile. Nobody does. So Google's just automatically pulling in information from various places. But best case scenario, you have control of it and you actually upload good photos, make sure all the information is up to date and your primary category is up to date too.
True. Yeah. And for the schools that I've seen, this is driving like 80% of their website traffic. Way more than niche and private school review and things like that. So
but it does help if you have recent and good reviews that are aggregated on your Google profile, whether they're on Google directly or pulling in from niche or great schools.
Okay, and that's a good segue to the next subject. So the other thing that you can do to get more people to visit your website is what is called a backlink. So a backlink is another website that links to your website. Google Maps is a great backlink, but private school review, Yelp, great schools, all of those ones are great. You can get on other ones like, what's that one for the neighborhood? Nextdoor. The Nextdoor, like a social media app. That one's a good one. They all take time. Like you're going to spend like an hour and a half or whatever to set up your Nextdoor profile. And then on top of that, you have to kind of like check it every couple of months to make sure that it's not out of date or something. So it is, a two-edged sword. It's helping you. They're not going to be a tremendous, each like Nextdoor, Yelp, private school review, all of them are going to just give you a very small amount of traffic. It's still worth doing it, right? It's way better than spending for ads. Yeah. You can also get on blogs are really helpful. Generally because people probably, it depends on the blog, but people might trust them a lot more.
Like mommy blogs, where to send your kid for school. Yeah, I guarantee you there's some mommy blogs out there that talk a lot about that kind of thing.
So those are really helpful. And there's Yellow Pages. Anyways, you can just spend, personally, if I worked at a school, I would spend like 20 hours to 30 hours and just say, okay, just kind of a one and done. I'm going to just get on as many sites as I can. And then from there on, just like once a quarter or maybe once a year or something like that, just log in and make sure everything's relevant. Okay, so here's some stuff on page, meaning stuff on your actual website that you can modify.
Be prepared for some geek speak, but don't worry, I'll explain if there's any unfamiliar terminology here. Google and other search engines have this thing called an algorithm, and algorithms are determined by a lot of different factors. And one of the things that a huge internet mogul like Google is going to look at for your website is your site mobile friendly? Because if it's not, they'll actually punish you. They'll push your ranking way down. So you'll end up on like page 10 of search results. And but if you have a mobile friendly site, then you're in good standing. Then it'll look at some other factors to determine where you rank.
Okay.
So oh, there's some statistics right there if you want to go back to that slide.
Oh yeah, here you go.
So just to read it off to you, since April 2015, so it's been a long time since they realized just how important mobile friendliness was since we all started carrying around these supercomputers in our pocket, Google's officially started rewarding the search rank of mobile friendly sites and penalizing sites that were not mobile friendly. And then back in 2018, March 26th, Google officially announced that they would be using mobile first indexing, which means that they're going to be indexing mobile websites based on their mobile version, not the desktop version, which is huge. So that's why you may have heard of from, if you ever contacted a website design firm or something like that, then they talk about mobile first design. If they don't talk about that, then beware.
Yeah, don't go there. Okay. So basically, if you don't have a mobile site, then you're probably going to be really low in the search engines.
Right. And just to give a tiny bit more context, if anyone's confused, so mobile first design means you don't have to like scroll sideways and up, turn your phone upside down or turn it sideways, or pinch with your fingers to zoom in to see content on the website. What it should be doing is automatically stacking content so that you can really easily scroll down the page on your mobile device, whether it's a tablet or a phone. And then you should also have some other elements, like something we call a hamburger menu is really common. So I'm just showing an example site here. There's a hamburger menu up in the upper right-hand corner. What that means is 3 lines. That means that you tap on it to open it, and there's the whole navigation menu right there. So those are just 2 common elements. All right. So moving on to number 2. So the site description, what is that referring to? So if someone does a search for your website, you're not going to get straight to the website. You have to click on a link first, like what we're seeing on this screenshot right here, right? So Stony Brook Christian School. This description is really important because that's where you want to insert things like keywords and things to make sure that it accurately describes what your organization is all about. And that's what people typically see first before they even click on the link. And Google also looks at the description to make sure that they serve it up for relevant search results. So if someone's looking for a Catholic private school in a certain area, it's not going to pull up a private Lutheran school because that person was looking for a Catholic school.
And then this is actually, I would say, okay, so 2 things. One is here's where you want to put the keywords. Like the keywords relate to whatever the person's searching. So if they type in private school near me, having that word in there is a good idea. But all the other words, what I would recommend doing from a messaging point of view is to describe, you have a problem as a parent, here's how we help that problem, right? So you want to put that in there. I would stay away from the things like our school's been in business for 50 years and things like that, because that doesn't really solve the problem that I have. If I say, hey, I need a solution. I need a solution that's a non-public school solution. Where do I go?
Right.
And why are they looking? That is like a really helpful thing. So here are the keywords in the boxes. I forgot to pull out that slide, but you can see if I type in a certain like near me or something like that, it's going to highlight the city. Okay, the last one here in red where it says MHCS, this is the example of what not to do, because MHCS is the school acronym and no one knows what that means. So they would be better if they just renamed it. If you look at like the top 2, I think are pretty good. So like Stony Brook Christian School, private Christian school, and then it says Orange, it's going to say Orange County. That's good because the name of the school, yeah, while it's important, the key thing is private Christian school, Orange County. Or in the second one, St. John the Baptist, the key part is Catholic school in Orange County, California. That's important if someone's typing in the word Catholic school in Orange County, California.
I want to say, I think the second one is probably the best example because one, the title's not cut off because you do have a maximum amount of characters. So the first school kind of went over that. And then the description on the second one is also good because you see the location of the school. There's a pretty specific description, and it also includes what grade levels they teach. What's surprising to me is, there's a ton of schools out there that don't even mention on their website, let alone their site description, what grade levels they teach. So if I'm looking for a preschool or if I'm looking for like 6th grade and that school doesn't teach it, as a parent, I'm kind of wasting time trying to figure out which grade levels do these schools teach.
Yeah, so I agree. I like that. You're right. I think second one is probably the best. this top one, Stony Brook, that would be better if they took out, if it just said Stony Brook and then cut out Christian school. So it's Stony Brook, private Christian school, Orange County.
Right.
That would have saved them more characters. And then
Right.
on their description where it says in partnership with parents, I think they just cut that out and just put in there like pre-K through 8th grade. Okay, this is what it kind of looks like in the code. So you'll see down at the bottom where it says meta name description. They're not talking about Facebook. That's just, I don't know why they use the term meta, but that's what they do. But the way you edit it probably won't look like this. Like if you're in Wix or WordPress or whatever, you're probably never going to see the code like that. It'll just be a box that says like edit description.
It's coming from the word metadata, which refers to a lot of data that search engines like Google will actually crawl through.
You fill your H tags and page titles with keywords. Vince, what's an H tag?
So an H tag is actually referring to HTML code, hypertext markup language. And that's something that, that's one of the first languages that websites were ever built with. And it's the foundation for a lot of, like pretty much all websites out there. Now an H tag is, you have different types of H tags. They're called header tags, and it determines what the header is. If you put some text in between two H1 tags, that means it's going to be the primary header text on your web page.
Okay.
Now, why that matters for metadata is because Google will look at where are your headers, your header text, and then it'll put it, prioritize it as header text, like it's the main description of the page or the title of the page.
Okay, so here's a true story. I want you to take, this is a true story of example. So a H tag is the header. So like when you go to a website, you see something like a title on the page, or like there might be a subtitle. So it matters because Google doesn't want to read the entire web page, just want to read the title to know what it's about. Normal, right? Okay, right. So here's an embarrassing story about Greatling's website. We had titles. Do you remember we had these titles and then we ran like an SEO audit on our site and we had some bad things pop up. And we ran it and we found out what we did is we just used regular words and just made them really big. So they looked like a title, but they weren't using the H tag. They were just using like regular body text tag and it was just really big. So when you look at your website, even though it looks like, hey, that's a big word, it's bold, it's underlined, it's probably the title. Yes, to a normal human, that's the title. But to the computer who's reading it, it may not be unless it has the H tag. So just click on it and whatever program you're using, it should tell you if it's a header or if it's body text. Just make sure it's header text. And then this is like how long. So you can't make like an entire paragraph a header, 20 to 70 characters, basically like a short headline that it can basically pop into a search result. Avoid keyword stuffing. What that means is like, don't try to take 20 keywords and shove them all into one sentence, because then that used to work, but then Google's onto it. And so it says, don't do that anymore.
Their algorithm got smart.
Okay. Human readable URLs. Let's do this. Let's see if we have an example here. Okay. Which URL do you prefer? Like, which website address do you prefer? Number 1 or number 2?
Absolutely number 2.
Okay. Does it matter from a computer's point of view, or is that just for a aesthetic, like talking to other people or putting it in an email?
Well, the word on the street is, Steve, that the computer actually cares about it too, because you want to have at the very least, the name of the page that you're on in the URL of the page. So that helps with indexing.
Oh, I see.
And that's what Google indexes your site, meaning it's taking account for each of those and kind of building a table of contents, if you will.
Okay. All right. So here's our takeaways. So if you're taking notes, these are the notes to write down. Optimize your GMB, Google My Business listing. It's actually, now they don't call it Google My Business anymore, but kind of everyone does. They just call it Google Business Profile, but it just didn't roll off the tongue as well. Reviews are important. Be linked on other sites. Oh, a consistent NAP, the NAP listing. Forgot to mention this. Okay, so NAP means name, address, phone. So this is, silly as it sounds, it's actually a big deal. So when you type in your address, you know how like if you're like El Toro Road or Lane or Street, you might abbreviate it or you might not. What they're saying is that if you make the spelling of your school's name, the spelling of the address, like if you abbreviate the street or name or boulevard or whatever, you need to abbreviate it wherever you put it. So whether you put it on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, your Google Maps, like wherever you put it, make sure name, phone number, address are the same.
Yeah,
and because that
consistency
helps
is
it
key.
find and match things up better. Okay, so traffic meaning people visiting your website. That's good. That's what we want. But what do we really care about, Vince?
Webs
Tours
or conversions, as we like to call them in marketing.
in marketing lingo. Yeah. So how do we get website visitors to inquire? Everyone kind of knows these equations, I know.
More
So
tours equals more enrollment.
okay, no, this is a key. Okay, if you think of paying money for ads, this is huge. If you had the choice of getting 10% more traffic, so let's say you had 100 people visit your website and you paid money and now you have 10% more. So now you have 110 people visiting your website. Or you could have 10% more tours. So let's say you had 10 tours and then you paid and now you have 11 tours. Which one is better, to have an additional 10 people visit your website or just one additional tour? Tours, right?
Always
Because that's
pick
what we're
tours.
actually after. So here's how it'll work. This is dollars wise, how you would show this to the board, that ads that don't cost tours are not worth paying for ever. I don't know if you could see the formula here or the math going on. Okay,
So
you
going
get
through it, if you had 100 visitors and you got 10 tours out of that, let's say your ultimate conversion ratio is you get 3.33 students enrolled, for 1/3 of a student. Then if you got 10% higher traffic, you got 110 visitors, you got 11 tours, you get 3.66 enrolled.
okay. So in scenario 2, that's like if we paid for an ad or something like that and we got
Right.
more people to visit our site. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the scenario that we care about is, what if we had more tours? Now 100 visitors, but instead of 10 tours, we get 20. Oh, that one kind of like screwed up on the line there.
Yeah, move that
Okay.
line down one, and then, but ultimately it's almost double.
Okay, so here's your acquisition cost, right? So given you spend $1,000 in ads, you get 100 visitors, that comes out to 10 tours, you get 3.33 people, so $300 per family. If you pay for ads, or if you get more, if you get more tours, sorry, if you get 10% higher tours, you spend $1,000 on an ad that causes tours, you're now paying 150 per family. So this is
Right.
obviously way
Yeah,
better.
all things equal, if you got more tours out of the same ad budget, meaning your website was able to convert more people to get to book a tour at your school, then it's a whole lot better when it comes to your acquisition cost.
Right. And your revenue in the end, by paying and getting more students, you'll end up having way more revenue, which basically then could make that advertisement free, right? Or at least pay for
it'll
itself.
pay for itself. Yes.
Yeah. But like here you have 53,000 versus 29,000. Not free, but it's definitely a very good investment to make. How do you get more people to book tours? Yes, it could be the ad, but most likely the ad is just getting people to your website. What's causing people to actually sign up for the tour or inquire? Your website is the thing that's causing the inquiries. The ads are just getting people to the website. So the value of booking those tours is $719,000. So how did we get to that number? Here's how we did it. And you could do the math on your own website, but take the number of families, multiply it by $8,000, which is our tuition estimate, multiply by 9 years times 1.5 children. That's how you're going to get out to these. Yeah, per household.
Yeah.
So that's how you get these numbers. So you're having a website that causes inquiries is worth a lot of, it's definitely worth your investment of time and thinking about this. When we think about websites, Vince and I have a very strong opinion that your websites, the audience that's meant to look at your website is not your current families. So we don't want to put like a donate now button, because donate now applies to people who are attending the school or maybe our alumni.
Well,
we don't want to put like,
that's with a caveat, Steve. You can, of course, have a donate button on the website, but it shouldn't be the primary focus.
Okay, yes. Because the primary audience, I'm thinking, is the room full of people who haven't heard of you. They don't know who you are. And so you're presenting to this group of people that don't know much about you and they don't know where to start. Maybe they've never attended a private school. They haven't ever signed up at a private school. Like they just don't know these things. So what does a website need to do to book more tours? Answer screening questions, a frictionless buying experience. So here, Vince.
All right. So we've got a testimonial here. This is actually from a long time ago, but it still holds true. Heather, she's at a school in Washington State, and she had a Squarespace website before, and it looked okay, but it was booking about 1 to 2 tours a week, which is pretty decent. But then she got a website from yours truly, GradeLink, and her tours took a significant jump because we made a website that actually booked tours. It followed all the methodologies, including having clear to call to action. And guess what? She went to 3 to 5 tours per week. Pretty significant increase. It got so good that they actually had to take off some of the tour booking capabilities on the website because they got overbooked. They exceeded their capacity at the school. So if you want that kind of problem, do these things.
Okay, so in our marketing master plan here, we've covered the traffic, and now we're on the booking the tours stage.
What is a photo worth? Well, a lot of people say a photo is worth 1,000 words, but we like to say, yes, but it's also worth $108,000. And you go, how do you figure? Because if you, again, take some of those previous stats we looked at, your average tuition multiplied by the number of years that a student would attend your school on average, multiply that by the average number of children in a household in your local community, you'll get somewhere in the neighborhood of $108,000. And what does a photo have to do with that? Well, if you have an engaging photo, and we've got some good examples right here of what not to do and what to do. If you have a good photo, then that's a huge part of making that first impression when a parent first sees your site.
Yeah.
The more engaging a photo is, the more likely they are to actually want to learn more about your school and ultimately book a tour. Now, if you compare the left and right photos, which one do you think is more engaging, Steve?
As much as I like the one
right
on the
off
left,
the top
yes.
of your head.
Yeah, right one wins.
He looks really tired. He's like totally demotivated. They both look tired. The photo's kind of gray and washed out a little bit. But if you look on the photo at the right, this guy is running hard. Like he's full of determination, ambition. He's going to win the race. It has an overall more professional look to the photo, even with the blurred background. There's even more color to it. So all of those factors, subconsciously, it will create a better impression on the parent if they see a photo like that. The line up and say cheese photos, where it's like, hey, everybody line up, and it's a post shot, versus the action shots where things are happening. The ones on the right where things are happening, they're action shots, they show the environment of the school. Those are 100 times more engaging than the line up and say cheese ones.
And I kind of like the one on the right because it's like if you're a parent and you've got a kid who's like that age, you're kind of imagining that's your kid running through the line, being encouraged by their friends.
Right.
You're kind of seeing yourself there, but it's really hard to see yourself on the one on the left because you feel like, oh, I'm not part of that team.
Right. Sure, they all won medals, and sure, that reflects well on the school, but that's not how it comes off to somebody who doesn't know anything about the school.
Yeah.
The one on the left, it's kind of far away. It's blurry. You can't really tell what the teacher's writing on. Whereas the one on the right is a pretty decent photo because you can actually see the faces of the student. It's a more bright photo. You can see what they're working on.
Yeah.
Those types of things. So these are all the elements that come together to ultimately create better impression. Must-haves for photos are you got to use candid photography. It's nothing posed. That stuff is boring. Well, I shouldn't say nothing. There's a time and a place for it. Like if you have a photo that you want for your existing parents, great, put it on a different page. But for the sake of marketing to your prospective families, use candid photography, show doing photos like action shots, shots that will show the personality of the school. So even to the extent that, if you're like a STEM focused school, or if you're an athletics focused school, or if you're a faith focused school, your photos should reflect that. That goes along with showing many environments at the school. That way that the website is kind of giving you that virtual tour as parents go through it. Well, call to action means, what do you want a parent to do when they get to your site and they're interested in the school? Here's a pretty important statistic. 98% of visitors leave your website without taking action. Wait a minute, that's pretty scary.
And that's just normal. That's everyone's website. It's not like if your website's underperforming. This is just normal website behavior. And you can imagine it. Just think of the websites that you visit. Do you inquire on every single website you visit? Probably
No.
not, right?
But you can increase the likelihood that someone will take an action. And that's the whole point of learning this methodology.
Yes, that you should make it easy to do that. Now, part of the reason why we don't take action is because those websites don't make it easy to take the first action. Or the
Right.
first action might be like sign up. And you're like, well, I just found this website like 2 minutes ago. I'm not going to sign up. Right.
Right.
So we want to have a kind of like a ladder where it's easy to take the first action that doesn't require a whole lot of commitment.
And in this context of a school, something we commonly see is the first thing you might see on a website is a school website is like apply now. And I'm like, wait, I just got here. I'm not ready to fill out an entire, 5-page application on the website.
Yeah.
Because I'm still learning about the school. A lesser commitment for a parent would be booking a tour or maybe just a general inquiry form. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm kind of interested in your school. I'll give you some bare minimum information, like what grade level I'm looking at, maybe my student's name, things like that. But booking a tour, as we're going to cover later, is actually one of the best things you can do because it's low commitment, and it'll give parents an opportunity to actually, see the school.
Right. Book a tour. Or for preschool, I'm thinking a good one is because preschools usually have a like long wait list. You could do check if there's room, just
yeah, you could even have a wait list form if you wanted to, but definitely not a 5-page application or an enrollment form.
I'm glad you said that. Okay, so for everyone who has an inquiry form, think about your inquiry form or pull it up on your computer and count the number of things that you ask on the inquiry. A lot of school, I mean, and don't feel bad if this is you, but I see so many people, I would say like the average school website ask like 15 or 20 things from the parent. And like when you go on websites and you inquire, you don't want to put 15 things about yourself to someone that you don't know.
Yeah.
So shoot
Definitely
for like 2, 3, 4 things, just the minimum. If you get them on the phone, you can ask the rest. Which one's going to work, Vince?
I'm gonna take a wild guess here and guess the one on the right.
Okay, but let's kind of break that out. Aside from the fact that the one on the left isn't really designed for a phone,
right?
What's the one on the right doing well?
The one on the right is first of all, they have a value statement developing each child to their fullest potential, and secondly, especially since the focus is on a call to action, they have a book a tour button, and that book a tour button is very visible because it's a different color from the rest of the site. It's large, and that's pretty much everything the button needs to do.
So going back like to my point a little earlier, that button should not say donate now, right? Because this is a prospective family and they don't know you, so they're probably not going to donate. And they're looking for a place to send their child, and they're trying to figure out, should I go here? Should I go there? Like, where's my kid's friends going? What's the best environment? Mm-hmm. Donate just doesn't make sense in that context for them, even if they're the kind of people who do donate. They need book a tour. Apply now maybe even like another option might be one that's like less forward than apply now. Maybe like watch our video or download an ebook. But ideally, if you can get their info.
Right. Apply now is not bad for a secondary one. And the context for that would be if you get maybe your school gets a lot of referrals from their church, like church families go to your school, then you might want to make it really easy for those families to just click apply now and it goes to the application. But you should still make the primary call to action book a tour.
Right. Because that's the first thing that you have to do. Yeah,
right.
That makes sense. Okay.
Which one's more effective?
Yeah. I'm going with the one on the right too.
Yeah. I'll agree with you there.
Yeah.
The one on the left is, while it's very colorful, which is not a bad thing, it's a busy page. There's a lot of text. It doesn't have a call to action that really jumps out at you at all.
Yeah, it does say apply enroll here, but it doesn't stick out more than anything else.
But then again, enroll here is not the ideal primary call to action.
I think we kind of get it, right?
Yeah. This one, the one on the left there is it's mostly just a calendar for existing families.
Okay, yeah, that's a great example. Like, so this one, if you're an existing family, this makes sense. You're like, okay, the calendar, the staff, my homework. But if you're a prospective family and you're just trying to figure out what's this school all about, should I go here? Those won't make sense to me.
Right. So the question was, which site would a parent spend more time on? I think the answer is pretty much. Well, the only reason why it would be on the left is because they're trying to read that giant paragraph of information, which nobody reads that. So more people are likely to spend time on the website on the right, the St. Euphrasia Catholic School, because it's simply laid out. There's a clear call to action. They know where to do next, and it's not complicated to know what you need to do if you're interested in the school. Whereas St. Pius wants you to read a big paragraph before you do anything.
It's just easy at getting what you're looking for. So here, this is pretty straightforward. Schedule a tour, call us. Like it's pretty clear what you're supposed to do. And actually, okay, this was a friend of ours, so we know her, but I remember this is Verinda's site and she got too many tours.
Yes.
I remember that too.
Yeah. We built the site and she got too many tours.
Yeah, they were a great school. They had most of their enrollment came from referral from current families. And when they had that tour booking thing, they had to take it off because they got too many. And we redesigned the site, so it's just really clear what you're supposed to do next. Okay, this is a great example of, I think, just communicating. So we're not trying to persuade or coerce people into like funneling into something and making them do something they don't want to do. We're just trying to communicate the value of your school clearly to someone who doesn't know anything about it.
Right.
So I feel like this one does a good job just communicating, this is what we do, this is how we help, and this is what you need to do next. Right.
Right. It's nice, simple.
Without cluttering it.
Right.
Yeah. And the photo kind of reinforces it because this is a photo. This is like the outcome. If you come here, one day will look like this. Okay. Oh, and the other thing I like about this one is that the daughter is clearly like, she's kind of like looks like an 8th grader. So you know right away, like, okay, this is not a preschool, or maybe they have one, but like, oh, it does say there, small classes is for preschool through 8th grade. But just the photo itself tells you that, yeah. Okay, the messages. So the messages is super important. I would say that's maybe more important than the photos. This is just saying that we all get so many marketing messages a day that we just are very good at not listening to them.
Therefore, they all sound like the Peanuts grown-ups characters.
Yes.
If you ever watch the Peanuts, then whenever a grown-up talks or not one of the Peanuts characters, then it sounds like wah, 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 wah.
I don't know if this number is actually true, but this is what I found on the internet, that you get 10,000 brand messages per day. Thus, you really have to be clear. A clear story or a clear message equals higher enrollment. This is really hard to do. So if you're not doing it, don't feel bad, but this is definitely worth your time. The ideal message, and I honestly haven't found very many schools that I had a really hard time finding examples of like schools that are doing it right. But the ideal message is to talk about what benefit you get and what time you get it. So the best examples I could think of are like for fitness, like lose 30 pounds in 30 days. Like there's a clear benefit and a clear timeline. Together we excel. It sounds good, but it's not really specific to this school. Like that could be said almost about anything, right? It's better than not having a message at all. It's better than just like saying the name of the school or something like that. But do you see what I mean? Like compared, if you had something like, this is a Christian school. So if they said something like, I don't know, memorize 12 Bible verses in 12 months, like that's a very clear benefit and time period. That probably doesn't sum up the school very well, but something where it's more specific is going to be better. I think they did, Trinity Lutheran, I think they did probably the best of the schools that I've seen, because it's very clear about what you're doing. Okay. Also, it's hard to read the words here, right? Do you agree? This one's a lot easier to read the words. So always go with clarity over cleverness. Cleverness is like cool animated videos, cool catchphrases. Just don't worry about them. Just straight to the point, very clear, no confusion. Speak to the 3rd grader in your audience. If they understand, you're doing okay. Show your website to your 3rd grader, see if they understand. So you have to identify the problem. Why is the parent even looking for a school to begin with? What problem they have? Because if you just talk about stuff that they don't care about, then they're not looking very long. So you got to explain how you help them. And then the picture is generally like the delightful end of the story, right? So you got to and then you got to do this in 5 seconds. Sorry. It's challenging. We didn't say it was going to be easy, but that's how it is. So the reason the caveman there is because of like, I don't know, the grunt test, right? That like a caveman has to kind of look at it and just be like, what do you do? Okay, it helps me. Okay, I know it. I can enroll. So something like, okay, you help me not have my kid bullying. Okay, I click here to sign up. That would be a really clear idea. I don't know, Vince, do you have anything to add to the messaging?
No, I think that's pretty clear.
Okay.
If a caveman can read it, then you're in good shape.
Yes. Okay, Vince, you're all into mobile. So why don't you share some insight on mobiles?
I'll take this one.
But you got 5 minutes or less to do this.
All right, let's speed through this here. If you don't have a mobile friendly website, short end of the stick is it's costing you money. And why is that? Because non-mobile websites, they tend to frustrate visitors. You know, if you're trying to pinch and zoom to try and read something on a website, that's frustrating. Also, as we talked about earlier, Google will punish your website or rank it lower. And as a result, if you're trying to run Google ads, it'll also cost you more if your site is not mobile friendly. So that's something to keep in mind. We have some examples. Which sites will parents read? I think we already looked at these. It's clear the one on the right is winning across the board. Here's a very important or glaring statistic. So 50% of local mobile searchers are looking for business information like a local address. So that means you really need to make sure that for the sake of the mobile users, because they're on the go and they're trying to look for, in this case, a school that's near them, you want to make sure your website's optimized for that. And that includes having consistent addresses with your other listings.
Yeah. So basically, prospective families are generally on the phone.
Right. They're on the go.
Which makes sense. That's kind of like late at night, you're in your bed or whatever, you're like searching for something.
Yeah. And this statistic, 60% of American adults use smartphones and tablets to search for local product and service information. I think this is old because we're probably closer to 70% or more.
I agree. I think it's probably higher than that.
So this methodology that we've been talking about, it works, and we've seen schools improve their enrollment. We even had a couple of case studies that we talked about, like Foothill Montessori and the school in Washington, Snoqualmie Springs. Of course, all of our sites are mobile friendly. We actually follow our own methodology, believe it or not. And our sites do increase enrollment. So you can go to websites.gradelink.com. And of course, part of the methodology is having clear calls to action. So all of our sites have that. Unless you get a website from us and tell us that you really don't want a call to action on it, then of course we can take it down for you. But typically we always have your best interests in mind. And what's that number again? 700.
So this is the value of your site if you are going to get this enrollment.
Don't worry, we don't charge this much for a website.
Yeah, you won't charge that much.
It's a lot more affordable than that.
Yeah, but between 1,000 and 5,000 is a setup. If you have any questions, we're happy to stick around. Or if you want to just send an email to Vince, there's his email.
Actually, correction there. You could send an email to websites@gradelink.com. My email works too, but just in case, send it to websites@gradelink.com.
Okay.
Or you can actually request it because we have a web page for that.